The Pittsburgh Penguins were a surprise second-place finisher in the Metropolitan Division in 25-26 before losing in the opening round to the Philadelphia Flyers. Neil, coming into this season, the expectation for the Penguins was low, to say the least. They had a rookie head coach, Dan Muse. There was question about whether Sidney Crosby would even be with the team at the trade deadline. Defenseman Erik Karlsson was all but certain to be dealt after a disastrous 24-25. And their acquisitions were apparently a bunch of spare parts that they picked up during the offseason. But when we ended the summer cooler segment, we said, let's give Dan Muse a chance and see what happens.
It sounds like a John Lennon song, doesn't it? Like, give Muse a chance.
Give peace a chance, yes.
Yes, that's right. He really came through. Dan Muse did something to that team, and boy, they exceeded expectations by leaps and bounds. They weren't an easy team to beat this season. They were a harder team to beat. And the one guy that it blew my mind was how he got through to Erik Karlsson. And Erik Karlsson was a responsible player and a good player all season.
On both sides of the puck, which was probably even more surprising. But remember during our Washington Capitals summer coolers how we said, we really nailed this one.
Yeah.
Well, you know how we talk about chicken on our Stanley Cup predictions? On this one, a lot of crow is being served up here because this one was a total whiff by us. We were not alone in underestimating the Penguins, and Muse, who is now an Adams Award finalist. From opening night, this team bought into whatever Dan Muse was saying and played well. Were they streaking at times? Yes. But they were also more consistent than a lot of the bubble teams around them, and that's why they were able to finish second. And when you look at their offense this year and some of the numbers that made this work for them, their goals scored went up by 50 from 243 to 293. Goal differential improved by 75 from minus 50 to plus 25. They had 12 players with double digits in goals, 5 of them with 20 goals. Anthony Mantha, who had a couple of injury-plagued seasons, comes in, 1-year deal, scores a career high in goals. Yegor Chinakhov, great acquisition from the Columbus Blue Jackets, finished with 21. Wasn't great in the playoffs, but still strong regular season, something to build on. Justin Brazeau, career high 17 goals. Connor Dewar, career high 14 goals. Tommy Novak scored 16, too shy of his career high. And Noel Acciari, a career best, plus 14. And you talked about that Erik Karlsson resurgence. He goes from 53 points at a minus 24 to 66 points and a plus 8. And let's not also forget rookie Ben Kindel, who chipped in with 17 goals and 18 assists in 77 games.
Really amazing. And Mike Sullivan had been there for a long time and won 2 Stanley Cups as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He left after the 24-25 season. Dan Muse was an assistant coach with the Rangers, and he was hired by Kyle Dubas as the coach of Pittsburgh, and Mike Sullivan went on to the Rangers bench. Dan Muse did it all right. No matter what he did, he blew away what the expectations were for the Penguins, which, by the way, were not to make the playoffs. And really, they had a fun year for their fans.
And also their defense improved. Goals against average dropped from 3.46 last year to 3.09. And that acquisition of Stuart Skinner from the Edmonton Oilers for Tristan Jarry, but they got Brett Kulak in that deal also, and of course Kulak was later traded to Colorado in exchange for Samuel Girard. And Artūrs Šilovs, very dependable in net. And so you put all this together, and now, 6.5 months later, it's not hard to see why this team improved so much.
Exactly. When you break it down now and you look back, you can understand it. The acquisition of Skinner was just a highway robbery from the Edmonton Oilers. They win on both sides. They get a better contract because Jarry had that long contract that actually Dubas had signed him to. Jarry's game was receding as he went down to the minors and threw waivers and came back up. And they were also, as you mentioned, able to get Kulak, that they later traded to Colorado for Sam Girard. And they had Šilovs sitting there as another goalie for them who's very dependable, as you put it. So everything worked out right to the extent that it could. I mean, everything works out right when you win the cup. But for the Pittsburgh Penguins, this was almost a Stanley Cup season when you look at what the expectations were.
There's a lot of work ahead, though, for Dubas this offseason. Every team has somewhat of a unique profile, which is very specific to itself. And I don't think there's any team that is in a more unique situation than the Pittsburgh Penguins. So as we look ahead, they have 5 picks in the 2026 draft. They have 2 in the second round, their own, and Winnipeg's pick in the Luke Schenn deal that took place in 2025. They have no picks in the 4th round, and that was part of a trade with Nashville in acquiring Schenn a day earlier around the trade deadline. They have none in the 5th round. That pick went to St. Louis. None in the 7th round. That pick went to Colorado. They have $10.2 million in projected cap space for the reset July 1st. Their UFAs, Evgeni Malkin, Kevin Hayes, Anthony Mantha, Noel Acciari, and Connor Dewar. 4 of those 5 forwards we have already mentioned. On defense, Connor Clifton, Ryan Shea, and Ilya Solovyov. And in goal, Stuart Skinner. Their RFAs, Chinakhov and Artūrs Šilovs. So, a lot to unpack here.
A lot of pens to be used to sign these guys, and it depends on who they're going to sign. And if they don't get them signed, where are they going to go to get replacements for them? And there could be a big turnover in Pittsburgh again. You know, I know Malkin wants to come back. Crosby wants him back. That's all been said publicly. Anthony Mantha had a great year, but is he the modern-day Warren Young? It's going to have this great year in Pittsburgh and then go sign somewhere else.
Yeah.
And Noel Acciari, real good year, real good player, you know, put his life on the line every night for them. I mean, there is a lot of work to be done in signing these guys, and Stuart Skinner, of course, as well. So it's going to be a very busy summer for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
But here's the uniqueness of the situation with this team, because they are continuing to build around a core that is either at or approaching 40 years old. So again, we don't know what the future is going to hold for Malkin as a UFA, and he turns 40 on July 31st. Crosby turns 39 a week after. Kris Letang already 39. Erik Karlsson 36 on May 31st. Brian Rust turns 34 next season, and Rickard Rakell is 33. So put this in a package here, Neil. All of this went right this year. A lot of your core players were excellent. Your support players were excellent, and many that we just mentioned had career years. But this could end up like the Washington Capitals did this year, where last year, all of these players, like 8 or 9 of them, had career seasons, and then there were injuries, and there were drop-offs, and they wound up missing the playoffs. This situation could be setting itself up the exact same way.
And you know what? Maybe they'll go out in the summer and sign Corey Perry and Brent Burns, and then they could have a couple more guys that are of that age. You know what? I think you're absolutely right. It's set up for them to regress if they don't get some young guys and keep this thing going. I'm really impressed with Dan Muse. We can't say it enough. He got the team to buy into whatever he was selling. They had a lot of career years. And we were saying this at the end of last year about Spencer Carberry. He did a fantastic job with Washington and got them to buy into whatever he was selling. That was the great Ovechkin record-breaking year. Remember, they battled Winnipeg for the President's Trophy all season long. And then now this season missed the playoffs. Are we saying that's going to happen at Pittsburgh? No. But I would think it's a lot of work, and I'm anxious to see what they do. But for now, doing spring cleaning and cleaning out our locker here with the Pittsburgh Penguins, we've got to look back and say, we were very wrong on how this thing would end up. They were able to have a real good season, and they're going to have to make that future themselves this summer, the management, and work on it. But they get an A+ for this season.